Member Gordon, Senator Weinberg, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm deviating from my testimony, which is always dangerous, but you've heard from so many others, and I don't want to be duplicative, but I do want to point out some common themes that you're hearing. One, I would start by saying that we have been at the table with DDD, and they have solicited our input, and we're appreciative of that. We have had an opportunity to make some significant changes in some of their early recommendations. Having said that, echoing what you heard from Tom Baffuto, there are so many critical areas that absolutely have to be addressed before we transition into fee-for-service. I represent 62 agencies, providers of services and supports to individuals with intellectual and disabilities. The challenge that I face with my membership is that I have some that are very small to those that are national organizations. It doesn't matter the size. This change can have a significant impact whether you're operating in 5 states or you're just running 2 group homes. The concern and the angst and the anxiety that Tom Baffuto referenced is pervasive. It's not unique to any one type of organization. I think 2 or 3 people referenced the lack of information that's being given to providers, the tiering that you're hearing. I was actually quite surprised when I came into this role 2 years ago that we weren't already in fee-for-service, because every other state is in this field right now, and many are moving into Medicaid managed care for long-term supports and services. Fortunately, we're not there yet. But having said that, I thought, well, why would this be such a problem? Well, 2 years later, I understand what the concerns are. We don't have enough information. The infrastructure is not there yet. I do believe DDD is working to move toward that, but we are not there yet. And let me just share some examples with you. You heard about the tiering. A year ago, when the rates were first released, providers were told, model the impact so that you understand how you need to make programmatic or financial changes to be prepared for fee-for-service. Well, you cannot model the impact if you're not given the information to do so. So we've been awaiting the tiering information and the acuity information for probably within the first 2 months of the rates being released. We've never seen that. And now, not only have we not seen that, more important, we're being told that that information does not belong to the providers, it belongs to the individuals. And I respect that. But providers today cannot plan for tomorrow if they cannot model the financial impact. With my smaller agencies, I've encouraged them to talk to other organizations and perhaps seek mergers or partnerships of some sort to remain financially viable or ensure the ongoing supports and services to those they currently serve. They cannot do that because they don't know where they stand financially. And it is not just simply, well, look at the population you serve today and try to estimate where you would be. That's overly simplistic, and that's not how good business practices are used. And that's what we need. We need information to make good, sound business decisions. Because as much as we are there to provide social services, we're also here to be a business and remain intact and viable. The other issue that we're facing is that, I think, significant issues, we don't have licensing regulations that are consistent with fee-for-service. And we can't move forward. I tell my providers I'm very concerned. They are at risk. They are at risk of being non-compliant with state regulations, and more important, they're now having federal oversight. So Medicaid comes in, and it's not a matter of just picking up the phone and calling somebody from Medicaid saying, you know what, I didn't mean to bill this way, or I didn't mean to, we didn't have appropriate staff, but you don't do that with the federal government. Medicaid, you either get it right and you're compliant or you're not. So I've been around long enough to know that amending regulations takes a very long time, but we need to do that and we need to do it now, and providers should not be held to existing regulations or policies. I've never been in a world where you use policies as standards. So I think that's something, and I know DDD has welcomed that discussion and they are moving forward, but we can't implement a system without making sure that the regulations are timely and appropriate in the world that we're living in. I think the last that I would reference in terms of fee-for-service is that we now have hundreds of case managers. Their role is changing, and we've been told it's one of quality oversight. They are auditors now. The concern that we have with that is that their very actions are duplicative of those responsibilities that rest with licensing. So now we have individual case managers coming in and citing providers because they have a roll of paper towels that has not been replaced. This is not ensuring the safety and well-being of individuals. Roles have to be clarified, training needs to be provided, and perhaps most importantly, you have to have oversight so that those that have been charged with very specific responsibilities limit their actions to those responsibilities. This is a very big concern because the providers are spending so much time on administrative tasks and responsibilities in response to directives from case management and licensing that they're not devoting the time that they need to the individuals that they're serving. So all we are asking is not to move away from fee-for-service. I think it's the appropriate transition. But we have to give providers and, quite frankly, families and caregivers all the tools and information necessary to ensure that this transition is done right from the very beginning. We cannot keep backtracking and correcting things because we've been so quick to adhere to a timeline. The timeline should be, the assurance that we get this right should drive the timeline, not the timeline driving as we roll out all these different facets associated with fee-for-service, with leases and billing and all the rest. So I will leave it at that, and I've provided you with more extensive information in my written testimony.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for what I consider an excellent testimony and real-world experience.